get to watch the stock report in Korean, midget wrestling on Channel 3. It costs me $50 a month just to see them. Yeah, but that's all right with me. I got cable TV. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where there is more honesty in 1 hour of our program than a Keith Ellison conference call with Feeding Our Future. That's true. There's not a lot of honesty there.
No, there's not much. I know the song.
You do?
No idea who sings it, though.
Huh.
I think it's I know it's one of these. It's Maroon 10. No, it's not them. How about Depeche Mode?
No, this is it's not earlier than Depeche Mode. It is earlier than Marooned.
Maroon 10. All right. Matchbox 20.
That's kind of the same as Maroon 10, isn't it?
Okay. It's let's see.
We've never had this artist on the
Everly
podcast
Brothers.
before.
I don't know
not
who the
that
hell.
Old. My goodness. Did they even have cable TV back when the Everly Brothers was making music?
I think when they retired, I think they did.
Did
by
they?
then. I don't know.
And just hearing
I'm
them
going
on the
way
movie
back.
Ghost doesn't count.
Yeah, I'm going
So,
way back.
Yeah.
No, I don't know when they had cable TV. Is this an 80s or a 90s tune? It's got to be an 80s tune.
Yeah.
I don't
believe
know.
it's 80s.
I don't. I could.
Yeah, it's 80s. 85, if that helps.
One of the greatest years in music.
Yeah. It is a great year in music. I tell you, each year.
Three Phil Collins songs made the top 40 for the year. I know
Yeah?
that made your year. Just almost as good
I
as.
love Phil Collins.
Actually, I don't know if it was Phil
Yeah.
or if he was still with Genesis then. I don't know.
I love Genesis too. But,
I mean, to me, it's the same. That's
yes and no. Phil, Genesis did make pop rock, but they also experimented and went off into
true.
Yeah.
But if you played one of their songs, I couldn't tell you if it was Phil or if it was the band. I really couldn't tell.
Genesis, Tonight. I think that was
Yeah.
that was around 85. I think.
Yeah, and what is it? Give me just one sharp knife or something like that.
Yeah, that's
Is that it?
Oh my word.
I don't know. Anyway,
The theme song from
actually, Easy Lover.
yes,
that
with
was
Philip Bailey.
That was played as the opening song on WrestleMania 1.
Really?
When they were going through the line, they took it out now.
Yeah?
You can't see it now because they
Really?
don't want to pay Phil anymore
Oh my
to
word.
use the song. You know, I'm not kidding. Peacock,
Yeah.
they won't give them any residuals from
Oh
that.
my word.
So they took it out now. But they
Yeah.
it was with no lyrics. It was
just the bed.
Yeah,
the
I always wondered. I'm
-1.
like, God, I know that song.
Oh yeah, I love that song.
Yeah, and if Phil Collins knew, if he knew how big WrestleMania would be, he would have
I know.
negotiated that a little
Yeah.
different with Vince. But
Oh,
so
and poor Philip Bailey. I mean, he had all his Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff to fall back on, I guess. But
I suppose, but I mean,
Yeah.
he's kind of the forgotten guy in that song, in my opinion. It's
I don't know.
so I don't know. All right, who sings it, Jay? Duran.
No, absolutely not. The song, cable TV. The artist, Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh man. Eat it.
Yes. First time on the
Yep.
songs or music from the podcast playlist.
You know
on
my
Spotify.
lasting memory of Weird Al
What?
is the beginning of Naked Gun,
Yeah.
where Leslie Nielsen gets out of the plane and he goes to pulls him aside and goes, "Nah, the press isn't here for you." And he's like, "Huh?" He goes, "Yeah, Weird Al Yankovic's on the plane."
Yeah.
Alex goes, "Yeah." It was funny, when I saw him later, he was unrecognizable. I
Yeah.
mean, you'd see him. To me, he's frozen in my mind with that porn star mustache and the glasses and the curly hair. And then I see him later and he looks like Axl Rose. He's got like hair down to, it was just, I couldn't put two and two together. That was Weird Al.
Yeah. He's I saw him twice, actually. I saw him at Valley Fair once. Or did I see him there twice? I've seen him twice.
Huh.
That was, as a
Does
kid.
he still do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he still puts stuff out. Just recently, it was within the last, I live in a time warp. This could have been 50 years ago. But recently, semi-recently, Weezer put out an album that had Africa from Toto on it. And in the video, Weird Al is actually fronting Weezer and not Rivers Cuomo, the front man of the band. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And he played it totally straight, which made it even more funny,
Unreal.
Yeah.
Gotta love Al, though. It's great
yeah.
to put Weird Al
Yeah.
on the spot the fly list.
UHF. Did you ever see UHF, the movie he did?
If I did, I haven't seen it for 30 years.
Yeah. Ripped off like every movie ever known to man in that. But, because he's satirizing everything, but it's...
No, but it's not ripping off like your guy, Vanilla Ice ripping off Queen. Yeah.
My guy, whatever.
That's right. I forgot. Your guy was, what's the lead singer from Milli Vanilli?
I don't know.
No, but I got to say this.
Yeah.
That Weird Al will always have a place in my heart with Eat It because it was the greatest, it was as the first song I can remember that was total satire that I listened to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't, but I mean, it was such a...
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, I mean, it may be hard for somebody who's like 25 now to explain what Michael Jackson was in the 80s.
Right. But, I mean, he was on everything. He was in everything.
Right, and it coincided with like MTV's rise and, and things like that. I mean, Michael Jackson was the... I don't know of a bigger star. I mean, I don't remember Elvis. He died the year I was born, so I don't remember him as
I don't remember
the king,
him either. But
I mean... But
even then, you really had to go to the concert, or he had to be on like Ed Sullivan's show,
right?
Or
watch his movie or something.
Right.
It wasn't.
Which was only in theaters back then. You didn't have VHS.
You didn't go to Blockbuster and go rent.
Maybe you could go get the 8mm at the public library.
Watch it on microfiche.
Yeah.
Well, remember watching MASH? Remember they used to have movies on the old projector.
Oh, yeah. I used to watch some movies that way. A guy I knew he had a projector like that. He would bring it over to the house. We'd watch Laurel and Hardy movies and stuff like that. Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You'd go get them at the public library, and then we'd bring them over, and it's a good time.
Wow, and I thought Beta was old.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, speaking of old,
yes.
Something rolled out of bed the other night. Did you happen to catch any of our former presidents' speech? I want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
For a media that speculated on President Reagan having Alzheimer's, like 8 years before he was diagnosed with it.
Yep.
And I've made my feelings known on Jill Biden and what I think of her, and I can't say the words that I'd like to use to describe her. Why doesn't somebody wave a skunk in front of her and say, it's time for you to be Nancy Reagan?
Yeah.
And just protect this guy now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Ronald Reagan with Alzheimer's going out giving a speech?
Yeah.
And that's how we would remember. That's how anybody if he gave a speech in the late 90s with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Anybody who is 40 and under, that's what they're going to remember of Ronald Reagan.
Yep.
And Nancy protected that legacy.
Yep.
Joe Biden is now forever known. Whatever he did, good or bad, whatever you think of him, that he did during his career, will never be talked about again.
Well, and the cat's out of the bag. I mean, having to put tape on the floor so he knew what direction to go in.
Having to take a break after 25 minutes of debate prep. And what's what pisses me off now? Now the same people who covered this up, we all knew they were doing it.
Yeah.
Now get to cash in on it.
Right.
And they get to be covered by the same media. Well, why are they going on Joe Scarborough's show? Well, I thought Biden was sharp as a tack.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I'll tell you what.
All lied.
I tell you what, there needs to be an investigation into this. And I know there's a lot of things going on. And I've called for it about the Kennedy assassination, about the Trump assassination attempts, origins of COVID, origin of AIDS, which is something I would love to see. It's funny how the media has never showed any interest in the origin of AIDS. I have my theory on where it came from, which is probably why, but we have to do a whole show on that. I've called for them to do a million different things. And I understand there's a lot of priorities right now.
Yeah.
But who was president of the United States for the past 4 years? That's pretty high on the list of
the leader of the free world, supposedly. The most powerful man in the world, supposedly.
And you don't have to worry about nuclear codes because he couldn't remember them.
Right.
But somebody had them.
Yeah.
Whoever that was.
Ron Klain carrying him around? I'd like to know.
Jake Sullivan.
Yeah.
Anthony Blinken. I don't know. Kamala. Let's hope not.
Oh.
I mean, it's but to watch him be trotted out, and he apparently was paid $300,000 for this speech. I want to know.
Word.
I remember when Hillary Clinton was charging $1.1 million to go to a university and give a speech.
Yeah.
Don't tell me anything about the price of tuition.
Right.
You're going to pay that to, I wouldn't pay her 50 cents, but let alone that's me.
Yeah.
$1.1 million for a speech.
Yep. Hope it was worth it for the cost of your student loan interest.
So, but the best was I knew Fox would cover it.
Yeah.
But apparently CNN started covering it, and then Jake Tapper jumped in and said, we'll get back to this if there's anything relevant to
right.
They cut away
as
soon as the first sign of a problem came. But and I also, we're going to talk just briefly about Sanders and AOC and their bus tour or whatever they're doing. What do they call it?
The Fight Oligarchy tour.
Fight Oligarchy tour.
Yeah. This
is a consequence, Jay, of the people talk about, Trump had a bad week with the Trump hasn't had a bad week.
No.
He hasn't had a bad minute.
No. Because
his opponents still are as clueless as ever. And this happens to parties. Someone fills the vacuum. You always say this, parties will go up, they'll go down, they'll rebrand themselves. Happens all the time.
Yes.
But I still say in my lifetime, I have never seen a political party this discombobulated, this leaderless, this clueless about what direction they want to go. I still cannot think of a parallel.
Right.
I mean, even after Walter Mondale won one state, the Democratic Party was not in such bad shape as they are now. They still had the House. They still had a majority of governors, believe it or not, in 1984, even though Ronald Reagan won 49 states.
Yeah.
It was not this bad. And in the vacuum, someone's going to emerge. It always happens. Okay? I mean, this happened with the Republican Party a few times when Mitt Romney lost. And the Republicans with no idea where they were going. What happened?
Yeah.
President Trump's the one who filled in the vacuum.
Yeah.
Okay. After Watergate, who filled the Rockefeller Republicans? Ronald Reagan filled the vacuum, redefined the party, changed the party's direction. Bill Clinton changed the party's direction for the Democratic Party. He might not have done it on purpose. I think he did it partly out of his own survival, but he was smart enough to see the mood of the country. I don't have any idea what they're thinking. I don't know what I don't know what a Joe Biden speech who just reminds everybody of, and I think Joe Biden's approval rating was 20 points below what it was. I think it was more in the teens.
Yeah.
I think it was in the 30s because he was running and, all right, well, some people were just going to vote the D and shut their eyes. I think his approval rating was way lower than that. I think he would have lost by a much bigger margin, even though he thinks he wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Which I think is hilarious. But okay, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. If that's it. But, what, when you see this, what fills in the vacuum here? I mean, how does anybody right this ship? I just don't get it.
Sure looks like they're moving further left, doesn't it?
Well,
I mean, at least the left of the party is making a play for the throne. You've got this tour going on with AOC and Bernie Sanders, fight oligarchy. Yeah, says the guy that has multiple mansions and honeymooned in the Soviet Union.
Well, again, I think Bernie's just doing what he always does. This is the socialist line. We're going to redistribute income. Somebody's screwing you. Your boss hates you, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is him not saying anything different than he said 20 years ago. He's just filling the vacuum. We're paying attention to him because Democratic voters also have to be frustrated.
Yeah.
And maybe Bernie's not their first choice, but at least they see him as standing for something.
Yeah.
We may scratch our heads at it. They may not like all of it, but, and I've said this before. Name a young Democrat in their 30s and 40s other than AOC making any headway in the Democratic Party.
Well, Nate Silver came out today and said that she's the leading contender for president, or not president, but for the Democrat nomination for president.
Well, check his predictions out from last year, and we'll see how they come true. But, hey, look, I don't dismiss her.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of think there will be a Bernie candidate, and I got to figure that the Democrats are going to somehow, for the fourth consecutive election, manipulate But here's the problem. They don't have a person to move to right now. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Jay. Handicap it for me.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 5-6 names.
Okay.
And you give me a scale on a 1 to 10 whether they could win the nomination, not beat JD. We're not going to go there. What do you think on a scale of 1 to 10? I'll start with AOC. On a scale of 1 to 10, what are her chances of getting the nomination?
Goodness. Getting the nomination, knowing who else is out there, knowing how Democrats will nominate a rock if it's running as a Democrat.
Right, but let's say every name that we're thinking of runs.
Yeah.
And the names that get tossed around, although
I do.
None of them, nobody seems to be. I'll go through them.
Yeah.
It's just, what do you think? 1 to 10, what's your gut tell you?
6.
See, I'm going to go lower. I'm going to go like 3. I just think that, I think that by 28, the Democrats will have something figured out by then.
We'll see.
Something or someone.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll throw a little curveball at you. A guy I've seen on TV lately that I have not seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Rahm Emanuel. How does he rate?
4.
See, I would go lower too.
Yeah.
Rahm's a great behind the scenes guy.
Yeah.
Not a great out front guy.
No.
Yeah. But it's
Chicago.
But it's funny. Yeah. It's funny seeing him out there.
Right.
Where did you come from? You've heard about you for 10 years.
Right.
There's got to be a reason he's talking.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go to California. And we'll go to Governor Gavin, who still thinks he's auditioning to be president.
Right.
But, I mean, what does it tell you about the party? California is the poster child for how bad the party is.
Right.
But he's a rock star.
Yeah. I probably give him an 8.
I would too. I really would. I think Gavin Newsom, and I've said this before, can look you dead in the eye, lie right to your face, and he smiles.
Yeah.
He doesn't sweat. He doesn't. I mean, it's just
there's
something about him that And I do give him a little credit for talking to the other side. I think he's one of the few Democrats that...
He doesn't mean it.
No, but he'll go on Hannity. He'll debate Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
He'll have Steve Bannon on his podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
That's all a show.
It's a show, but it's smart.
Yeah.
It's smart. Personally, I'd rather he'd clean up his own state.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I'm going to throw you another curveball.
Okay.
John Fetterman.
Ooh. Yeah, I guess I haven't seen him be interested in that yet, but that doesn't mean he won't.
His Senate seat's up that year, too, which is another
Right.
curveball.
Yeah. I guess I'd maybe put him at a 7.
I'd put him close to there, too. I think health might be a concern. He seems fully recovered from that bad stroke he had. But he was on with Bill Maher. This is before Maher went to see Trump.
Yeah.
And Maher basically begged him. He said, he goes, we cannot put up these other people. We have to have Pennsylvania. We have to have somebody who's blah, blah, blah. And Fetterman kind of laughed it off, but he's a guy I hadn't even thought of.
Yeah.
I just wonder if Fetterman's going to burn bridges doing what he has to do in Pennsylvania, or
Right.
Maybe he is just being himself.
Yeah.
Is that survivable? He can win there. Is it survivable nationwide with the AOC? I can't see them getting excited about Fetterman.
Yeah, the far left of the party probably wouldn't
Not
like
going to
it.
like him. So he's going to have to do something to get their support. I don't know. I'm going to throw you another curveball.
Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith.
I was expecting that name to come up. Likeable enough guy.
I think a very likable guy.
Yeah. But he doesn't have the political acumen or the business acumen to be able to run a country. Not that really matters to Democrats. I think we'll just surround you with our people, right?
I think it matters to him, though. I think he's a little more self-aware than other people. But
I'd say a 5.
Okay, I'm going to say a 3. I'm going to go lower. I just think it's the Trump effect. It's the finding somebody who's totally not involved at all. Who can we get? Who can we throw up there? I think he's an interesting character.
Yeah.
I enjoy his interview. I mean, he's actually really insightful. Mm-hmm. More insightful than 80% of Democrats. I don't even know if he identifies that much as a Democrat. I'm not really sure. He seems to, but he seems to spend all his time telling Democrats how dumb they are. So I don't know if he's quite on board or not with all that. I know he's got a big contract at ESPN, which would be an issue, obviously. They'd have to pull him off the air, and he's got one of the top shows. Yeah. Even though he's been critical of Disney, too. I don't know. I think they just let him say what he wants. Maybe he's got that kind of cachet. Okay. I'm going to throw one more out there. Yeah. And it's Wes Moore out in Maryland, the governor there, who's been on kind of a little speaking tour, but not real well known. But I got to feel like a dark horse has a real shot, like a guy we don't see coming.
Yeah, I think that guy's a 2.
I think he could be a Veep. I don't think he's got... I
don't even know if I see that. Maybe.
Well, I mean, being from Maryland, it's kind of not. I don't know. I mean, I think that they're looking for another Obama, and I think that they just can't find one, and maybe that's the kind of thing.
Right.
But it's funny. Actually, I'm gonna throw one more at you.
Yeah.
Mayor Pete.
4. 3.
I'm going to go higher. I think he's got a higher chance. Yeah, I do.
I don't know.
I don't know why. I think by default he has a higher chance. And I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
You want to repel the male vote?
Yeah.
Big time? Put a gay guy on the top of the ticket. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know. Because it's not like he's super flamboyant or anything like that. But
he isn't, but it's...
But... he's just not good at his job. He's, all the airplane crashes that happened under him. Look at the train derailment in Palestine. Look at, he was a disaster, just like he was a mayor.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything in the Democratic Party.
No, it doesn't. But I don't think he checks enough boxes. I mean, really. Yeah. I mean, Joe Biden got to run for president because he was the next guy in line, and the power brokers, at the time, Pelosi and company were able to kind of coordinate him and push him through the process. We know the strings that were pulled to kind of take Bernie out.
Yeah, it was to get the other candidates, Mayor Pete, Klobuchar, whoever was still in the race, all behind Biden. They all dropped out for South Carolina.
Yeah, all
in an effort to get rid of Bernie.
Yep.
They manipulated everything in 2016. Obviously, in 2024, it was a total coronation.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time they had a real debate was Hillary and Obama.
Yeah.
Because Obama's reelection was unopposed. So, I mean, it's been 20 years since they've had a real contest.
Yeah. You left a big name off of that list.
Yeah. Who's that?
Kamala Harris.
I did that kind of on purpose.
Yeah.
Presidential losers, I don't think get a second chance.
I think she's going to try and create one, unless she runs for governor and wins, which I don't foresee.
I'm going to be blunt there. I think it's unlikely that she gets in. I think the field is not going to clear for her.
No.
She has not been there. Either. She has no answers for any of the problems there. And I think there's a lot of people who want that spot who see it as a probable win, and I think that's a tough one. I think that's a real tough one for her.
I do too.
And she goes, and here's the other thing: she goes there and doesn't get her career's over. She's 60 years old. She's not going to get another shot to go anywhere.
Who knows, though? I mean, look at like Beto O'Rourke. He's lost everything he's ever run for, and he still runs for things. He's just not smart enough to figure it out. Nobody wants you.
Yeah. That's true.
You get enough people blowing sunshine.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if Kamala is going to run again. I mean, it's going to be very hard for her because first off, she's going to remind people of the Biden-Harris regime.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake. They need to break from Biden.
I agree.
They need to pretend he was never there. They need to.
He wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know he wasn't there mentally, but I think that's a problem. I think they totally need to break from that, and I think she would have to run completely differently, especially in a primary. It would be about issues. It would be, she wants to make it about box checking and feeling good. I don't know that's going to work.
Yeah.
And if she tries to pivot, it's going to come across as unauthentic.
Yeah.
And I just I don't get what the excitement. Look at what happened when she ran on her own in 2020. She was gone by Iowa.
Right.
And she's only the vice president because she checked boxes. Biden basically admitted it.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick a woman. Okay. So I mean, she was a DEI hire.
Right.
So what's the? I mean, I think she's going to be still top of mind for people for a while, but I just think that's going to fade. I think once you've
put her to 5 or 6,
maybe she certainly can raise the money, but I have a feeling that'll dry up too. I just feel you divide that among 8 candidates, and I don't know where she gets it though.
Does Governor Goofball run?
No.
You don't think he's going to run?
No.
Do you think he's going to run for governor? Or do you think the Democrat Party is going to say, "I'm sorry, no"?
I don't think the party can force him out. I really don't.
Yeah.
Not without a big fight and not without a candidate that can take him out. They're not going to challenge him if they don't think they can beat him.
Yeah.
So I think if he wants to do it, I don't think the Democrats will stop him.
Yeah.
I thought the chances were very low 2, 3, 4 months ago.
Yeah.
I think they're much higher now. That he runs for governor again. Because if he wants to run for president, there's no reason to run for governor. There's zero.
Yes.
There's no incentive for him to do that. There's every incentive to not be the governor and to spend your time raising money, to getting support. I mean, there's no reason to be the governor if he wants to run for president. I would put it low that he can get the nomination, like a 1. I would put it maybe a 1 in 3 that he runs.
Yeah.
But if he runs for governor again, I'm going to guess he doesn't run. Okay. But again, he's another, what is he, about 61 years old now? I mean, he
doesn't feel like he's done, though. I mean, he doesn't.
I don't think he does either. But again, there'd have to be, I don't get what a Walz candidacy is about. What is it? What's the issue? Like with some candidates, you can see it. With Bernie or the Bernie wing of the party, well, I disagree with them. I see what their issues are. Mm-hmm. With other Democrats, I can see their issues as well. With Walz, it's like, what? Give me a top 3 of reasons why.
Right.
I can't give you a top 1. So it's kind of like, I don't, and so much about the Democratic Party is about feeling good and box checking and who can raise a lot of money or who'd be a good debater or I don't think Walz fits the bill on any of that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. The one other name that's kind of been, there's a couple lesser ones. You have Gretchen Whitmer. You have Josh Shapiro, who's been floated out there. And now with what happened to him and him being a victim, and I'm not saying this to blame him.
Who's that?
At all. Governor of Pennsylvania.
Oh, Shapiro.
Is he able to resurrect his image a little bit now that he's been attacked by the far left of his own party? You heard about that, right?
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. He's taken such a hit.
Yeah.
Last year. I mean, nobody's stock went down more. Possibly. The only thing I think Shapiro has going for him is I still think he's known yet unknown enough.
Yeah.
Or he can still define himself.
Yeah.
I think he took, like I said, he took a hit last year. Pennsylvania, his state, was the state that, I mean, you had the Senate candidate lose, and he ran ads with Trump in them.
Yeah.
Like, if Shapiro's so great, why wasn't, Fetterman's a big critic of him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, again, where's his niche? Where does he...
Right.
What's the appeal? And he's going to have to figure. I think the Democrat who emerges strangely is the Democratic Trump. Somebody has to come along and say, Trump came along in 2015 and said, let me tell you something. I'm going to be blunt with you, and this pissed off a lot of Republicans.
Yeah.
But he was right. This is where Republicans have gone wrong. It's the border, it's the forever wars, it's bad bilateral,
Yeah.
He picked a few issues where he resonated with voters, not the party elite.
Right.
With voters on issues that were seething under the radar. I remember in the Bush Jr. years, I can remember anger that he wouldn't secure the border.
Yeah.
Anger that these forever wars. But it took a candidate to put that into a package and change the party's direction. Yep. Somebody has to go to the Democrats and say, look, we are wrong on the border.
Yeah.
And here's what we are going to do. We're not going to sit here and obsess over hating somebody. And somebody's got to bring a positive solution. We are wrong on women's sports. We're getting killed on this issue.
Yeah.
You can support someone's right to be trans without destroying college athletics and fairness for women who've earned their scholarships and blah, blah, blah. That's who's going to emerge.
Yeah.
Is somebody who does that. And I don't see any of them doing that. I think the first person with the guts to do that may emerge.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, because they're going to be fighting the left wing of their party.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to do it now. There's no incentive to do it now.
Yeah.
I think you're not going to see it for another year or two.
But as we've seen, when they do try to moderate, and it might have been with Kamala that nobody believed her because she was far left and said she was going to do all this semi-conservative moderate stuff, and maybe nobody believed her. But the far left of that party really did reject her. I mean, you had like the Muslim faction that said we will not support her. You had others that, so to be able to rally around somebody in that party, I don't know what you have to do, because you're not going to get everybody.
Right. But that's
not that you needed to get the nomination, but if you're going to win in general, you sure do.
Yeah. I'll tell you why that is, though. It's because the far left's gotten whatever they want from the Democrats since Obama.
Mm-hmm.
At least since Obama's second term. I mean, Biden gave them whatever they want to. Their politicians are afraid of the far left.
Yeah.
And maybe if a few people have the courage to change that, maybe that will change.
Yeah.
But right now, it's like Tim Walz never said no to the far left once. The far left owns him.
Yeah.
He can't pivot.
All right.
And if he does, it'll be seen as inauthentic and fake.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, other than AOC, who's the person in their 30s or 40s? Who's their J.D. Vance that could emerge? Who's, the Republicans of all these people, Byron Daniels and Anna Luna and Laura Breitbart and all of these. I mean, I'm missing a bunch, but there's all of these reps in their 30s and 40s, Vivek, and who are emerging as figures right now.
Yeah.
And they don't have that.
No, and the older people in the Democrat Party are not ready to give up power. I mean, they're in their 80s, they're in their 90s, and they will not step down.
Well, and also, what can they do? I mean, what do you do if you're Chuck Schumer?
Yeah.
Look at what happened when they simply avoided a shutdown for 5 months. Schumer made the right play. It was a lose-lose for him.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, get this off the front page. He made the savvy move.
Yeah.
He got the votes needed.
Yeah.
And it was a question, other than John Fetterman, it was a question of whether he was going to get him. So I think Schumer misplayed it publicly.
Yeah.
Which is a rare mistake by him. But it's kind of like, I don't know why he wants the job. What do you want the job for?
Yeah.
I mean, the Dems might be the minority in the Senate for 20 years now.
Doesn't
Look at
matter.
how many more red states there are than blue states.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's about power. It's about money. And as long as you're getting power and money, the little people don't matter. You don't have to have your way.
I don't know. I just, speaking of the media,
Yeah.
let's move on here to sort of the media and how do you think, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
How do you think the Trump administration, after not quite 3 months yet, but getting close to 3 months, how do you think they're dealing with the media? What grade would you give them? Not just President Trump himself, but the media.
I think they're doing really good. I mean, look at President Trump I see him giving more press conferences out of that door on Air Force One than Biden ever gave throughout his presidency. He has the press in the Oval Office. And then you look at the other members of his cabinet. I mean, the press is in on his cabinet meetings.
Yeah.
He brought alternative press into the press room. You have guys like Hegseth and Stephen Miller, and they're always talking to the media.
Right, but how are they doing with it? Yeah, they're transparent and open.
Yeah.
Trump gets an A+ for that. He got an A+ for that in his first term.
Yeah.
But how well do you think they're handling it?
I think for the most part they're handling it really well. It's really hard when you're battling people that are that are intent on writing negative press, twisting the facts, kind of obfuscating what something really is, and writing your own thing on it. It's hard because you need your message to get out there, and that's part of why they brought in the alternative press. That's part of why Trump created Truth Social, so that he can be his own mouthpiece.
Yeah, it's like without Trump, I wouldn't know Truth Social existed.
Yeah.
But do you think, I give the administration as a whole probably about a B+. I think they've only fumbled a handful of things.
Yeah.
And by fumble, I just mean...
Yeah,
I'd give him a B instead of an A.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that I would maybe do more is I would maybe talk to the press less and the alternative media more. I love during the campaign that Trump went on all these podcasts and sat down for 2 hours.
Yep.
And just talk. Trump could talk for. I think he could. Everybody talks about Cory Booker talking for a day with those crazy Angie Craig guys. Yeah. I think that Trump could talk for a month without sleep.
Probably.
The guy's just incredible.
Yeah.
And I think he's entertaining. It's funny. There's always a quote. He always gives you something.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe he needs to do that a little bit more. I understand he's president now. And he's putting in 16-hour days. And I understand that. But I'm concerned. I'm just mildly concerned at a handful of stories that I think are not getting out there enough.
Yeah.
Even being covered by the right.
Right.
And I'm also a little concerned about, like, we touched on the tariff issue. The mixed messaging.
Yeah.
Not so much from Trump, but from his people.
Yeah.
I just remember that last Sunday, and I mentioned this last week, I saw Peter Navarro, Howard Lutnick, and Scott Bassett say 3 different things about, and they all had legit points. I like all 3 of those guys. Mm-hmm. I really like Howard Lutnick, but it was just, you kind of went, and then I kind of think to myself, unless I hear it from Trump himself, not quite buying this 100%.
Right.
So maybe just the messaging there a little bit. I think Trump still thinks that he has to talk to the that if he's transparent and accessible, that's a key. I think he still wants to reach everybody and not just reach his voters. But is there a I just would say this. If I was sitting in the Oval Office doing something big, signing something really important, and I had to listen to some of the questions that they ask, I'd jump over the table and I'm remarked at Trump's patience with it.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes he tells somebody they're an idiot, but a lot of times it's sort of like they don't even ask him about what he's doing.
That's true.
Like when he signed the executive order to start getting rid of the Department of Education, when finally Linda McMahon was confirmed after weeks of delaying her and trying to stall it, Trump signs the of course, they have somebody right there explaining what the executive order says. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Trump signs it. And then he goes on and on and on about how, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is why we're doing this, because, I can't solve the problems of a school district here in Washington. I don't want money coming back with strings attached. He actually did a great job articulating it. Quite frankly, I think Linda McMahon does a good job too. And this is blah, blah, blah. Here's why he didn't get a single question about it from the people there. Yeah. Maybe Peter Ducey, but I think everybody else was like, so what's the deal about the MS-13 guy who's blah, blah, blah? Are you going to defy a judge's order? Are you going to be, he kind of just, he enjoys the banter, but it was like, why are these people in the room? Why don't we just kick them out and bring in the Blaze and bring in the Heritage Foundation who will actually write about what happened that day? I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, it's been more than one time where you said, that's a stupid question.
That was like the most egregious that I could think of. It was
that is really a stupid question.
That's just a stupid question. I remember on Air Force One, some lady who asked a dumb question tried to ask another.
Yeah,
and Trump goes, hey, you know what? I'm going to answer your question. He said, you talk too much.
Yeah.
So I just cracked up. It was just, but I just sit there and I think to myself, Scott Bessett did an interview with Tucker Carlson about 2 weeks ago. I would highly recommend. And I didn't agree with him on everything. He's a little bit more from the Wall Street investor background. Yeah. But I thought Tucker asked great questions.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best. It's like, God, I want to see this more.
Yeah.
This I want to see more of.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's been 3 months, but I still feel like a handful of issues have not gotten out there enough. Like, there was a report on inflation last week. It's at 2.4%.
Yeah.
For last month, which is like the lowest rate, I want to say, since 2020.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2020. I mean, it's at a 4. I was looking for it, but I can't find it. But that is as low a rate as we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
And there's another story. I got to compliment Doug Burgum, the former governor of North Dakota, who's now the Interior Secretary, and just, I think, a great choice for that job. He's got a strong energy background. But this came out on April 5th from the Interior Department. And Burgum did a long interview with Brett Baer. He did another one. I can't remember where he did the other one. I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. But anyway, the Bureau of Land Management in President Trump's first 2 months, this is in accordance with Executive Order 14154, which basically reverses President Biden's ban on oil and gas leasing on federal lands, that the Bureau of Land Management has leased out 25,000 acres for $39 million in the first quarter of fiscal year 2025. And this is something I didn't know, that they get a 16% royalty on these land deals.
Yeah.
So we're not only taking federal land, they're getting revenue from this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's because they're leasing the land. Nobody's buying it.
Right.
So there's Ed Burgum went on and on about, how he talked about building the strategic. He said that when Biden released the strategic reserves in 2022, that about a third of the oil had to be sent overseas to be refined. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, it was sent overseas to be refined because of our refinery capacity. It's a big, big problem that we don't have the capacity to do all this crude.
Yeah, well, I knew that. We were short on refineries.
So, I mean, that's just, I can't believe that story hasn't gotten out there, that we had to send oil overseas to get refined. But an issue like that, I mean, look at that $39 million worth in the first quarter, which is basically February and March. Because Trump signed this executive order on January 21st. It was his second day in office.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a story not getting out there. Not at all. And I'm not blaming Trump. I'm not blaming Burgum. It's the media's fault for not covering it.
Right.
But even the right-wing media, I have not seen that much.
Yeah.
They're all just talking about what's trendy right now.
Yeah.
Oh, they talk about the tariffs. And they talk about, immigration. And then they tell you, whatever. They're kind of, Fox is doing, I call it Natalie Holloway reporting. They're giving a right-wing spin on whatever the big story is out there.
Yeah.
and not really doing the in-depth reporting.
Yeah.
And so it's a concern I've got that some of this stuff's not getting out there. You're not going to have gas at $4.40 a gallon this summer.
No.
The actual national average is also at a 3-year low right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but there's a lot of good things happening. So I just hope that stuff, gets talked about more. And,
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. I mean, does Trump have to do it? Who's the spokesperson that should be sounding that out all the time? Because you're not going to have a megaphone on MSNBC to do this. So how does something like that get out there? How in the world does 2.4% inflation not get out there as a story? If it was 8%, do you think that would be a story?
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends. Not if Biden's in office, but if Trump's in office,
Well, they had no choice, though, but to cover it. That.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is very difficult because you have unwilling partners on one side, and then as it kind of seems to be with the right, they just don't do things that they should do. Kind of common sense things. It's like, okay, you should be covering this. You know that, right? But no, they'll cover the same old story 30,000 times in a day with the same, nothing new.
Yeah.
Just every show has to have the same story. I think that cable news would be a lot more interesting if they didn't repeat stories every hour. Like, I don't know, space it out a little bit.
They are guilty of that. I would say Brett Baer is maybe the one exception.
Yeah.
He tries to be more of a reporter, not an opinion guy.
Right.
I like Gutfeld. He does it in a comedic way.
Yeah.
But if you look at every other show on Fox, it's the same story, hour after hour after hour.
Jesse Waters steps out a little bit further than some of the other people on Fox.
At the end of the show, he usually does, but I think at the beginning, it's what's today's headline?
Yeah. He hasn't quite risen to Tucker's level, but he does step out more than the other hosts.
Agreed.
Do. Yeah,
agreed. I think that's true.
I think he watches Glenn Beck just because some of the stuff that he covers.
Good guy to watch.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely is. But you look at some of these. Obviously we talk about like The Blaze and about Tucker and about a few other places. But you look at some of these right-wing podcasts, they got more viewership than MSNBC.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, I just feel like it's like they need to go on like a spring tour. Like Trump needs to go on, maybe he needs to go on like almost like he's campaigning.
Yeah.
Because I think he's got to put some pressure on Congress.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to go fill a few arenas.
Yeah. Here's what I've done. Here's what we're trying to do.
Exactly. And throw a few zingers out there.
Yeah.
It'll get covered.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what. I mean.
Yeah. I know it's touchy because, I mean, you've seen the polls, and why media is even gauging this, I don't know, but almost a majority of Democrats are okay with the idea of somebody assassinating either Trump or Elon Musk. And how do you go have public rallies? You've got to be so careful about how you do it.
I just think Trump doesn't want to be seen as, he's not going to be afraid or intimidated by
No, I don't think so either.
But yeah, you definitely have to.
You have to keep it in mind.
And I don't trust the Secret Service.
No. I trust them more.
I trust them more now.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a mess. I think reforming it's really hard because they're
Yeah.
They're the ones protecting you. It's kind of like in a dictatorship. You never mess with the bodyguards. It's just,
Yeah.
So I don't know. You're right on those polls, which I just cannot. Part of me believes it, and part of me doesn't. I wish the media would take some responsibility for it.
Yep.
And maybe go out. It's funny. They go take a poll out there.
Yeah.
But they don't go, that's probably not a good idea.
Exactly. That should be the next words that come out of their mouth. This is aberrant.
This is terrible. That's what they should say.
Yeah.
And they don't. Funny how they never add that commentary.
Right. I don't know.
And let's be blunt. Trump's approval rating is 10, 12 points higher than the mainstream polls will show it.
Right.
Go to Rasmussen, go to Atlas, go right there to see his real numbers, which have actually gone up recently.
Yeah.
Not down, not
right.
what you think.
Yeah.
Because people understand what he's doing. They understand we're getting screwed. Maybe they're jittery about the stock market or something, but I mean, that's globalist corporations knowing that the jig's going to be up on some of what they're doing.
Right.
There's slave labor and all that kind of stuff. So but again, if you're the administration, you got to know, okay, you're not going to get a fair deal with anything here.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to how do you combat that?
Yeah, well, I mean, President Trump wouldn't be the first president to go out with a big idea and hold some rallies and do like a fireside chat.
Yeah.
I mean, other presidents have done that, right?
Of course.
You think about some of the things that Lincoln did in getting to the public.
And a lot different in those days.
Yeah, it was done differently. Although it still was a lot of in-person, showing up in a town, holding speech.
Of course.
Big
deal when the president came to town. The only time of your life you might see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was certainly a big deal. Yeah, I mean, and then you moved to President Roosevelt, President Reagan, President Kennedy. I mean, there was a lot of people who did that stuff very well. Do you think presidents used to use things like primetime addresses? I don't think you have to do that anymore with the way TV and stuff is. I'm wondering if Trump needs should get like his own channel or like his own
by MSNBC,
his own streaming. I mean,
yeah.
Because I'd like to see more of like the 5-minute speech explaining, like when he explains why, explains if he's reversing something, and I think more little things like that. Go on a YouTube stream and talk for 5 minutes, which is hard for Trump because he likes to go on, but and explain, okay, here's what I did today. If you didn't see it, or you watch MSNBC, make it funny.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. Blah blah blah. I mean, would that be a smart avenue? Because you have to understand how to reach people now.
Right.
If it was 1985, a primetime address on NBC would reach the most people you could possibly reach.
Yeah.
Now a primetime address on NBC is not seen by anybody under 70.
Right.
So how do you get to that?
That's a great mystery, I think. Because here's the thing, people are flocking to things that they agree with. That's the problem.
Right.
You're never going to get somebody on the far left to watch something that's on Fox News or something that's complimentary
Isn't
of
that
Trump.
a problem, though?
You'll never get somebody on the far right to go watch something that is complimentary of Joe Biden or some other Democrat.
I'll say this, though.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom and Steve Bannon, I listened to that for about a half an hour. Programs like that may change that.
That's true. And that's why
Joe Rogan, look at his
so
niche.
popular. Yeah.
I mean, he'll bring on anybody, whether they agree with him or not.
Right.
So, I mean, is that another avenue? I don't know. But you're right. I think as president, you have the cachet to kind of do what you want.
Yeah.
But lower than that, that's an interesting. But doesn't that worry you though? That if I want to, I don't ever have to listen to a single person I disagree with on anything.
Yeah, that's true. I think you have a better chance, like going out to something like TikTok or something like that, where the algorithm might put it right in front of you, of getting that message across. It's got to be in shorter snippets, which is okay. You know,
I think shorter snippets are better. I think somebody's more likely to watch a 5-minute speech than listen to a 2-hour podcast. But
yes,
the 2-hour podcast, I guarantee you, would make waves. And it would. I just would tell you, I can't. I thought that during the campaign, the smartest thing Trump did was those sit-down podcasts.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's just unbelievable the downloads he got. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah. Somebody's
just random. I mean, I don't want to say random because they all were their own niche, but every one of them 1, 2, 3 million downloads.
Yeah.
And then MSNBC gets 300,000 in their prime time.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just. Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Why is it that the media won't change? Why is it that they are not able to see that they're sowing their own deaths? I mean, if I were in charge at MSNBC, I would sit down and say, you know, I don't know how to put this to you people, but what we're doing is not working.
Yeah.
It's just not working.
Well, I think it's tough, though, because a lot of these journalists are dyed in the wool. I mean, they're true believers. They go to their leftist university and learn why it's so important to be an opinionist rather than a journalist, and to use it as a form of resistance rather than a form of information. And I don't know that you're ever going to change those people. You had the New York Times, which is predominantly a left-leaning newspaper, all of a sudden get taken over by leftist radicals, and they kicked out all the people that were left, but, you know, they weren't as radical as the group that's there now. You're never going to convince radicals that they should be more moderate. It just will not happen.
Okay. You're right on that. But let me ask you a question. Why don't their bosses do something? You know, if I'm at the New York Times, and obviously part of what's happened in newspapers is technological.
Yeah.
Of course, they have big online presence too. But it's like, how do you not see if you're running that you are A, missing half the country.
Yeah.
You know, and B, in decline, and you've been in decline.
Yeah.
How do you sit at CNN and give Anderson Cooper a humongous raise and a new cut based on what? Yeah, I know the journalists went to, you know, Cornell or wherever and were taught every left-wing thing on the face of the earth. Then fire them.
Yeah. That's the thing, though, with that group. They don't have the intestinal fortitude to do it.
Okay, but let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
In 15 years, do we have cable news?
I hope not. or let me say this, that it looks completely different than it does today. Where maybe it's fed by citizen journalists, or maybe,
God, I hope so.
You know, it comes back to the middle and it's less about opinions, more about news, or they're going to have to do something different because what they're doing now isn't working.
Well, I just don't understand what is the business model? What's the game plan? I mean, when you watch cable news and show after show after show is covering the same subject, and there's no investigation. It's all just opinion.
Yeah.
There's no news given. There's no investigating anything. Take the tariff thing, for example.
Right.
There's no stories. I mean, I remember 10, 15 years ago, seeing things. And some of these people were people like Lou Dobbs and other good people who were still on shows who would go in depth about trade deals. And they'd go in depth about something like that. You didn't see any of that reporting today.
No.
Zero. Nobody talks about industries or how China was brought into the WTO under Clinton. They haven't played by the rules yet.
Right.
And why isn't that investigated and explained? Why doesn't somebody explain what a tariff actually is? Trump's tried, but no one covers it.
Right.
Who actually pays it? How are we getting screwed by the European Union? Or what? I mean, look, I understand hating Donald Trump, but fine. But why can't you cover the issue?
Yeah. Well, it's not really sexy news either. I mean, look, how many times have we gone and tried to explain certain concepts like like a CAFR, a comprehensive annual financial report, to a group of political people, and their eyes glaze over, and it's
I'd rather sit on a toilet with 80-grain sandpaper than explain that, which is bad.
Yeah. But, I mean, just imagine to the casual observer. And I don't know that you really have too many casual observers that are watching MSNBC, really even CNN. I mean, unless they're forced to in an airport.
Or a hotel.
Yes. It's going to be more politically minded people anyways. Your low information voters aren't hanging out there. It's going to be your high propensity voters that watch Fox, that watch CNN, that watch MSNBC.
But I'm going to tell you something. Part of why I think low propensity voters don't watch that stuff is that they don't want to listen to the dishonest crap.
Right.
They don't want to listen to the talking heads. I'm a high propensity voter.
Yeah.
I vote in everything.
Yes.
And I wouldn't watch a Sunday show. If you gave me free pizza for a year, I wouldn't watch it.
Wow.
Because they're that bad. They're that uninformed. All I do is get angry when I watch them.
Yeah.
So the low propensity voter, I can imagine they'd watch it for 5 minutes and then they'd turn on Robert Tilton. I mean, on Sunday. What's the point?
Yeah.
I got 4 people screaming at each other. I learned nothing. And then the same 4 people will be on next week and the week after, the same panel.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, too. Why doesn't the media ever break from the formula? It's like watching the Family Feud. Okay, I know what's going to happen before I watch it.
Right.
So, I mean, it doesn't mean it's always bad, but it's like, why don't you break from the opening monologue and the same guest you had on last week?
Right.
I mean, why don't any of these shows break from that?
Well,
is that all they know?
Maybe. It's kind of like, the plane's going down. We're going to hit the mountain. Well, we're going to hit the mountain.
That's right. I'm insured.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It just, I would just love to see a show that is just, I don't even know how I'd change it. It's kind of like I would just take everything they're doing and do the opposite.
Right.
It's like, how would you change pro wrestling? I take everything they're doing and not do it. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's just, I'd love to watch a show that was unpredictable, different, longer, more investigative segments. I'd like to see more humor.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it entertainment value because that's such a bad word. I don't like to use. You and I get told when people listen to our show, I get told a lot that you and I are entertaining.
That's good.
Do you take that as a compliment?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think if they were bored, they wouldn't listen. On the other hand, it's like,
But I'm not doing this to hear myself talk.
right, this needs to be doing some good,
Yeah.
right?
Sure hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me go back to this. Let me go back to the administration. Who do you think are the best people are that are out there for the administration right now? I mean, if you could send 3 people out there to do PR.
Stephen Miller, obviously.
Okay, Miller's great.
Yeah.
Miller could tone it down a little, but that kind of makes him him.
Yeah.
Because he's just a bald Trump. He's a bald Trump is what he is.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's great. I think he's probably the closest of anybody to Trump, both personally and, I mean, Susie Wiles is too, but she doesn't talk a lot.
Yeah.
She's more of a behind-the-scenes person. But, okay, so Miller, I agree. I think Miller's good.
Yeah.
Who else do you like? Who do you like that's out there speaking for the administration?
I think Caroline Leavitt's been doing a good job.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Very much so.
I've been pretty impressed with Kristi Noem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to be. I mean, you talk about a department under Mayorkas that was a disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
With FEMA and with the border. I mean, and the Secret Service, which is under Homeland Security.
Yeah.
I mean, and how much that's changed in 3 months. I think it's for sure. I mentioned Doug Burgum. We need to hear him more.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more business-like. Just what he speaks on, he's very good with. And I love Howard Lutnick. I would pay money to see him talk.
Yeah.
Not sure. I think he needs to get on the same page with everybody. I mean, when he goes out and announces we're going to get rid of the IRS and keep tariffs, it's kind of like, whoa, dude, who wrote that memo? But I like his enthusiasm for crypto. I think he's had a big effect on Trump with Bitcoin and crypto, and Trump's really pushing that. And I think Lutnick's a huge reason for it.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'm surprised. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of like Don Jr.
Yeah.
I thought Don Jr. was maybe he's more behind the scenes.
Maybe.
But I know that he was instrumental in picking J.D. Vance.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a good political sense. I'm kind of surprised that he doesn't have a role. Yeah, I know he's got like 4 or 5 kids. Maybe it's just he can't do it. But Laura Trump is somebody I really like. I know she's working at the RNC.
Oh, actually, she's not. She has a show on Fox now.
Oh, okay.
On the weekends.
Okay, well, then she was. Maybe she's not anymore.
Yeah.
But I thought she was a good a real good articulate person for the president, too. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good people. They just got to speak with one voice.
Right.
And that's, you know what? Here's something, too. It's something I've always appreciated about the Republican Party, that they think for themselves. And there isn't that pack mentality so much like there is with the Dems. But, you know, when you want the one thing I just worry about is losing the narrative.
Yes.
I'm always worried about losing the narrative. You know, it's like the one thing that could revive the Democrats is to somehow pick up the narrative.
Yes.
But if they're going to take the side of gang members, they're just not. I mean, do they not understand? Does the media not understand that, like, being an illegal alien is like breaking the law? Do they not get that?
Yeah, I don't think so. They shill for people that are clearly breaking the law. You know, whether it's these protesters setting Tesla dealerships on fire, keying cars. This guy that is down in El Salvador prison from Maryland, that it's like they're trying to get this guy back, and it's found out
he has a court order to be deported.
Yes.
It's a court order. It's not. He's gotten due process.
Yes.
Which he's not entitled to.
Right.
As an illegal alien in my book.
Right. And it's found out that he's not a citizen. He is an illegal alien. It is found out that his wife filed with the police a couple of times because of domestic battery.
Yep.
And we're trying to bring this guy back into the country.
Well, and the media is showing him as the sympathetic figure.
Yeah, even though he's MS-13, and it's been proven he's MS-13.
Well, and here's the other thing I don't get. This is what I would say to somebody who wants them back in our country. They can live next door to you.
Yeah.
You want this person back in the country?
Rent them a room.
Put them up in your basement.
Yep.
No, not you. Yeah, bring them into your gated community, into the Hamptons or wherever, and they can live in your garage. Yeah, no, it's for us to deal with, us little people.
Yeah,
us, as Leona Helmsley would say, it's you little people that get to deal with that.
Ugh.
So, but why does why is it that a story like that gets so much coverage? But like there was one, I saw one article, I saw it on Facebook, about how the Trump administration is supporting human trafficking. And I'm like, really? How many people were human trafficked over the border in the last 4 years?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot. And it depends what your definition of that is. I'd say anytime that you are paying a cartel member to get you across the border and then that's really human trafficking. You're being trafficked across the border. You could make that a little more strict to people that are put into like an indentured servitude where you have to work off your costs to get brought into this country, or where they're actually bringing kids into slavery, whether it be labor or sexual slavery.
As far as I'm concerned, if they're being brought across under false pretenses or against their free will, it's human trafficking. They don't have to be sold into slavery. They don't have to be sexually exploited. It is human trafficking no matter what. I would call it that.
Yeah. But I would say sometimes it's not against their will and it's still trafficking, because you have people that pay a cartel a certain amount of money to come over here, and then they have to work that off.
Yeah, right. It's like paying the mob boss.
Yeah. Yeah, that's still trafficking.
Sure. No doubt about it. But these are people that have nothing. These are people, they're taking advantage of desperate people who maybe don't have another choice.
Yeah. A total of 1,912 persons were referred to U.S. attorneys for human trafficking offenses in fiscal year 2022. That's a 26% increase from the 1,519 persons referred in 2012.
Yeah. Sure, I believe that.
Right.
Times 5,000, and maybe I'd believe it.
Absolutely.
Or how many people have like a fentanyl addiction, or
Yeah.
It could be for any amount of reasons that they're human trafficked. But I feel like we had a whole, I don't want to say generation, that's probably overstating it, but we had this whole, it's funny, where was the place I saw that took a picture of the border down in Texas like 2 weeks ago, and then did it like 2 years ago. And right now there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
The Border Patrol is like playing cards right now.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, it was just a madhouse.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Who knows the real truth?
I think they're a lot more grateful now than they were.
But I still don't understand. What is the media's incentive to not cover that issue unfairly. I mean, I just don't get what is their thinking on it.
Suppose you don't get...
Is that worth the Laken Rileys of the world? Is that worth...
To them it is. We're expendable.
the?
It's about power. It's about money. Remember?
Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, I just still keep thinking of it from the media's point of view.
Right.
Where it's like 80% of the country wants this border secure.
Yeah.
That includes a lot of Democrats, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And
It does.
independents and people who just, look, we cannot have an open border.
Yeah.
Maybe they disagree about what to do with the people who are already, what or how it's done or whatever. But you ask the average person, they don't like what was going on.
Right.
So what's the incentive for the media to be on the 20% end of an issue?
Yeah.
I don't get that. I don't get why they would do that. Why would they do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the... I get lectured about women's rights by the mainstream media. In 2022, we got to go vote for abortion. But they're okay with two men disguised as women in the finals of some... I mean, what?
Yeah. Well, it tears our society down.
Should LeBron pretend to be a woman and go play in the WNBA? Would anybody think that was fair?
He could get another 10 years out of his career if he did that.
But it's so blatantly unfair. And like I said, why can't you support somebody's right to be a drag queen and still support women in sports? Why is that controversial?
Yeah, it shouldn't be. But, these journalists and politicians seem to be together on this, I suppose. They get invited to all the good parties. They, it's all that stuff. You want to be in the in crowd. You want to get the scoops. So you support, the Democrat line, and it's...
Maybe in Washington, D.C., that's true. Where it's
yeah.
But I don't know. I'm still sort of lost on where they think they're going. Where does CNN think they're going to be in 10 years?
Yeah, I don't know, because it doesn't look like they're really pivoting.
I mean, it doesn't look like they'll be around in 10 days. I mean, I don't know what they do to turn it around. Again, the best thing they can do is scrap everything, fire everybody, and pretend it's whenever CNN was launched in the 70s. I mean, just go back to... I mean, say what you want about Ted Turner, and he certainly has his shortcomings as a person.
Yeah,
CNN was groundbreaking when it came in.
Right.
It was the only game in town of 24-hour news for a long time. Backed obviously by a big TV mogul, but I mean, it was totally different than it is today. I mean, I don't get what's happening there. I don't understand it, Jay. I mean, and people on the right have to do this too. I mean, you got to go on when we've lost our way. There had to be an honest discussion about where to go.
Yeah.
And not only has it also, does the media not recognize that, number one, COVID destroyed their credibility. Two, Biden doubled down on it.
Yeah.
Do they not see? Do you think they believe? Like, guys, you'll see polls that show the mainstream media is like, below hemorrhoids in approval.
Yeah.
Do they not believe that?
I don't think they do. I don't know. You have to at some point, though. I mean, you have to look at those numbers and know, we're not connecting with people. It's like if you had a store and you ordered all these bananas and then you dropped half of them on the floor so they got bruised and they were lousy bananas, and you can't understand why your bananas aren't moving.
Yeah.
You know?
Why are these brown bananas not selling?
Yeah. And then still expecting that they're going to sell.
Yeah, and then the person in charge of it, you give a huge raise to.
Yeah. And the next shipment that comes in, you drop half of them on the floor.
I don't know. Just in any other business, I can't see how this could go on. And I just don't. I don't get it. I don't know if I want to get it. I don't see a solution for it. And let me ask you this: if you're the Republican, do you feel you still need to go on those networks ever? Like, I mean, if you're the Trump administration, do you ever send anybody on CNN? Do you bother?
I suppose. I mean,
it's one thing if a congressman decides to do it, but
yeah,
I don't know. Do you need your interrogation? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be picked for that duty. But I mean, like CNN has, what's his name on there? That he's an actual conservative, but he always gets ganged up on by everybody. Scott Jennings, yeah.
Yeah, it's 1 on 6 every time he's on there.
Yeah.
He holds his own.
He does.
Pretty good.
But, you're not, I don't think, winning people over because people don't go to CNN if they're conservative. I suppose you have independents that go there that don't know any better, but
maybe they just don't have any shows that I don't even know who's on there anymore.
Yeah.
There was a time CNN had Tucker Carlson, Glenn Beck, Lou Dobbs.
Yeah.
You go to their Crossfire show, and they had Pat Buchanan, Bob Novak. And, I mean, there was a time where they, at least, conservatives had a voice on the network.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't fair. Maybe sometimes it was a little bit of they'd interview 3 Democrats and bring out a Republican. Hey, what is all this stuff that there was a little bit of that, but I mean, I thought they at least tried 20 or 30 years ago. I mean, 30 maybe it's going too far back, but at least, I mean, it was in the Bush years that all those people were on CNN, and then obviously they all jumped to Fox after a while because CNN took a left turn. But what, I mean, I guess my question is, do you think the abuse is worth anything?
You got to have really thick skin, some people, I think, probably do enjoy it in a weird way. It's like, I'm going to get the best of you, and I'm going to show up every day and prove that you're a fraud. But I think most people don't like that kind of thing. I don't know. It's difficult. I think that I don't know. They give a nod to conservatism without tipping their hand in that direction. And I don't know if they ever will, just because they're so loaded with far left people. I don't know if there's any reconciling that. I think that in the end, you probably have to destroy the system and build it back from the ground up. And you've got to do it with a heart that it's going to be different. It's not going to be what it was. And I don't know. We can't move into a place of greater truth and continue to propagate lies. I mean, this is Edward Bernays 101, Yeah, I mean, when you've got
1984.
Yeah, when you have a government that is in cahoots with with the media, I mean, you lose that independence and you do not have the ability to ever know what's true. You know, you always have to ask yourself, okay, well, here, what is the truth? I can't trust any of this. What really is going on? So, I don't know. I mean, do you see any hope, any way to fix that system where you separate media from government and it still works?
No. Because number one, government is too big.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem. I think there's one way it could work, and that is if the mainstream media was not in like New York or Washington all the time.
Yeah.
If a new cable news network in Phoenix began, I think it would be much, much different.
Yeah.
Because you'd at least physically you'd separate yourself from the cocktail parties and the things like that. I think there's I think reducing the size of government would go a long way.
Yeah.
And I think what you talked about is old-fashioned citizen journalism.
Yes.
That we're going to go with a story and go where it takes us, not try to frame a story in a certain way to get a certain opinion.
Right.
It's kind of like polls. I can take a poll and ask a question designed to get a certain answer. Or I can take a poll, ask an open-ended question, and get whatever answer I get. You know, it's that manipulation that has got to stop. I mean, like, for example, take a story like the origin of COVID. If we had real journalists who didn't care who was president, didn't care what Fauci said or what the communist Chinese said, their job was to go get people the truth.
Yeah.
We'd have known the origins of COVID in 2020. Yep. But once it was, okay, we can use this story to defeat Donald Trump. We can, manipulate the news. We can shame people into doing something.
Yeah.
It became not about the truth, but about making the story.
Yeah.
And that attitude is so prevalent in journalism today. It's kind of a little Watergate effect. You get famous by breaking something.
Right.
The news used to not be about the person who did the news. Now it's like, I'm going to get famous by doing this. I'm going to have a podcast. I'm not going to have to work anymore. I'm going to be, there's that attitude out there. I get my Watergate. I get my big story I'm going to break. I'm going to break the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. I'm going to break blah, blah, blah. And that's how I'm going to make a name for myself.
Yeah.
And it's all about the person and not about the issue.
Right.
A whole new generation has to come. But you've said it before, Jay. It's the citizen journalist. That's the most trusted person.
Yeah. I mean,
not the person who gets paid by the mega corporation to, propagate.
We need people in every county, in every city that are willing to look at what's going on around them, take video with your phone, write about what goes on in school board, county, or city meetings or township meetings. Start a blog. Go, if you're around here, around the metro area, go to the Capitol when they're doing a press conference and get in on the press conference. You can apply for press credentials. These are things that we all can do to make sure that the true story is told and the false story is forgotten about.
Well, I don't know, Jay. Part of me thinks the media as we know it, I think, is gone. It's on its deathbed. It'll still be there for a while. Watch the nightly news and you see all those commercials for Depends and hemorrhoid cream, and who's watching it.
Right.
Who does the nightly news anymore?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you either. There you go. 30 years ago, Tom Brokaw, Peter Jennings, they were some of the most famous people in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And now, Walter
Dan
Cronkite,
Rather.
how
Yeah.
long was he like one of the most famous Americans?
Yeah.
Now, who does the news? I don't know, because nobody wants to hear it.
Right.
It's incredible. There's the downfall of the mainstream media right there. Well, one more question before we wrap this up.
Okay.
What do you think happens to NPR, PBS? What do you think ends up? I know the president has sort of started the process of, trying to get rid of the public assistance to them, although I still think that probably takes an act of Congress to do. What do you think is the future of PBS and NPR? Do they get dismantled too, or does the public side of it get dismantled? Because they can still compete in the marketplace.
I know there's some people that really want to see it go away.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm one of those
out.
people, but I don't have a problem with Sesame Street.
Yeah, I mean they tend to.
Do we need a PBS nowadays, though?
No.
See, that's changed so much. It's not like when we had 6 TV channels. I mean, I think things like C-SPAN are a good public service. But do we need NPR? I mean, how many places can you go to get news? It's just a gazillion.
Yeah, there's a lot. And it's websites, it's TV stations, it's
podcasts, it's radio shows. It's how in the world can you make the case we need NPR?
Yeah, you can't. No, I mean there's so much that comes onto that channel that is just
they're going down with the rest of the media. It's all old media. It's all 1970s, 1980s business models. It's one of the reason they can't compete. It's why they can't go out in the free market. They don't have the mentality of we have to produce a product people will like and we have to make a profit doing it. It's all, we can say whatever dumb thing we want to because we know the taxpayers are there to cover our losses.
Right.
All right. Styling, profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, take it away.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It is true. We cannot really trust the media. I mean, even I'm going to go out on a limb and ruin any chance of me ever being on this network, but even with Fox News, they cover certain things and they do a decent job with covering those things, but there are so many more important issues that they won't talk about, like our economy, like our gold supply. Instead, you hear a billion things about whatever the story is of the day. But if we don't face some of these other issues, we're going to be in a lot of trouble in a few years. So being a citizen journalist, really, you're able to get in where a lot of times other people don't get in. And you're going to be able to unearth things that other people would have no idea. And so the more of us that turn to being a citizen journalist, the better. And we have so many different things that happen at city councils, school boards, county boards, soil and water conservation, hospital districts, in the Senate, in the House, in the governor's mansion, things that happen right on our corner. If we walk down onto Main Street, there are things that are happening right there that we need to write about. And we need to let everybody know what's going on. And the only way to do that is to adopt a purpose that this story needs to be told, that there are not enough people that are out there truth-telling. This is what made civilizations go for so long, is you had these storytellers, these truth-tellers, these people that would passed down from generation to generation the things that were important, and then people would remember those. We're kind of at the end of that. And a lot of people just don't feel like they can keep up with the big corporations. A lot of people feel like they just, need to stay in the background, mind their own business, whatever, what have you. But that's what we got to do, is we got to figure out who is able to do what, who is able to go and accomplish so much. And like I said before, going into that press room and asking tough questions of politicians at the state capitol, or helping them to understand, how do we feel about some of these things? Because a lot of these politicians are so removed. And the media doesn't help, because they just go along with whatever the politicians want to do, no matter how outlandish it is. So I guess we want to make a pleading to you. It's time for us to watch so much closer. And if we team up and we chip in together, we can make all of these things happen. We can tell a story that is going to sway the people in Minnesota towards the truth, and to put wishful thinking behind us. Or you're interested in making a statement, get a hold of us. You can do that, commssolutionsmn@gmail.com. That is commssolutionsmn@gmail.com. And let people know about our podcast. We're covering important topics every week, and we want to make sure that you are well equipped to be able to tell that story, to share those things with your friends, so that we can overcome the deficit in this state. I think a lot of it's manufactured. And so we need to just come together and make a push, because we can't let the Democrats have a trifecta again. That'll put our state back so many years. We can do this, but we need your dedication. We need your persuasion. We need your skills of a writer. We love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work. It's that spark that makes